Hi everyone, this is Miss S from Excelsior Charter School, and today I'm going to be going over Geometry, Quarter 1, Quiz 2. And as usual, I have changed the values, but the questions remain the same. So here we go with number 1. Enter the distance between points P at 9, 4 and Q at 7, 0. So in order to find distance, we're going to use the distance formula. So D equals the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 quantity squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 quantity squared. So now I'm going to call this x and y, and then x and y, and it doesn't matter which one you make point 1 or which one you make point 2. And then we're going to plug them in for our distance formula. And that's what we get, and then we're going to simplify by doing the subtraction to -2 and -4, and then we're going to square both of those to get 4 and 16, and when you add those together you get the square root of 20. Since they want you to round this to the nearest tenth, when you actually find the square root of 20, what you get is approximately 4.47, so that rounds to 4.5. And that's the answer for question number 1. Question number 2 says that Noam walks home from school by walking 8 blocks north and then 6 blocks east. How much shorter would his walk be if there were a direct path? So he walks 8 blocks north and 6 blocks east. 8 blocks north and 6 blocks east. And it wants to know how much shorter it would be if this was a direct path. So we can assume that this is a right triangle, and we can actually use Pythagorean theorem to solve this. So 8 squared plus 6 squared would equal c squared. We get squares is 64 plus 36, which equals c squared. You add those two together, you get 100. And then to get rid of the square, you take the square root. So the answer is this direct path would be 10 blocks. But that's not what the question's asking us. It's asking us how much shorter. So his blocks now is 8 plus 6, which is he walks 14 blocks now, and if there was a direct path he would only walk 10 blocks. So how much shorter would his walk be? And the answer there would be 4 blocks. And that's how you solve question number 2. Number 3 wants to know the midpoint of segment AB for the points A, 5, 7 and B, 11, 3. So to find midpoint, we're going to use our midpoint formula. So you can call these terms x and y again and plug them in, and it doesn't matter which one you call point 1 or which one you call point 2, and you can plug them in, or you can remember that midpoint is just an average. So you add the two x values together, 5 plus 11, and divide that by 2, and you would get 16 divided by 2, which is 8. And then for the y values, 7 plus 3 divided by 2, so that would be 10 divided by 2, which is 5. So our midpoint is at 8, 5. And that's how you do that question. Our next question asks for the circumference of a circle and to use 3.14 for pi. So our formula for the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r or pi d, and it depends on what they give us, either a radius or a diameter. Since in this particular case they've given us a radius here, we're going to use this formula. And so we'll do our circumference equals 2 times 3.14 for pi times 12 for our radius. And what we get when we do our multiplication is that the circumference is 75.36. Remember that our problem asks us to round to the nearest tenth, though, which actually makes it 75.4, because this 6 rounds that 3 up. Our next question asks for the area of the circle in terms of pi. And remember that the formula for the area of a circle is pi r squared. And they have not given us a radius here, though they have given us a diameter. So remember that our radius is always half of our diameter. So in this case, our radius is 9. They ask for our answer in terms of pi, which means that I don't need to multiply by 3.14. So I have pi times 9 squared, and 9 squared is 81, so our answer is 81 pi. Our next question wants us to write this statement as a conditional in if-then form. So it says all squares have 4 right angles. So remember, we're going to need an if and a then when we write this out. We'll start with an if, and then we're going to have something about squares here. So probably something like if the figure is a square, then it has 4 right angles. So something to that effect. So I've written it down there for us. Our next one says, for the following true conditional, write the converse. And if the converse is true, combine the statements as a biconditional. So our statement here is if y equals 7, then y squared equals 49. So to write the converse, you flip the hypothesis and the conclusion. So if y squared equals 49, then y equals 7. And so we have to decide if this is true. So to solve this, we need to solve over here in the blue for y. To get rid of the squared, use square root. And the square root of 49 is plus or minus 7. So this would not be a true converse. Therefore, we can't write a biconditional statement. If we could, remember, biconditionals have to use if and only if. But in this particular case, we are unable to do that. And here's our last question. Select the midpoint of segment DB. So here's D and here's B. And we need the midpoint of this segment. So you can actually move in, let's see here, 1, 2, 3 spots this way. And 1, 2, 3 spots this way. So this is the midpoint. The midpoint is at -1. Good luck, you guys. I hope you do great.